are very, in the beginning, super friendly, but my experience was sometimes a bit on the surface and a bit artificial. So, things are very quickly awesome, and you're the greatest guy, who ever showed up with such a business idea. But when it comes to the point to make it real, then it still takes time.
Leaders Talk, Season 2.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It is my favorite time of the week. It's your favorite time of the week. It's our favorite time of the week. It's time for Leaders Talk, and I am, as always, your intrepid host, Andrew Dupie, host of the Leaders Talk podcast, head of communications here at Leaders Brand. And I am bringing you today a very special guest. He is someone that I've been working with for quite a while on this book, so we're going to have some really interesting, in-depth conversations. It is Joerg Kornblum. So Joerg was born in 1963 in Griesheim, Germany. I hope I got that pronunciation right. He studied industrial engineering, business administration at the Technical University in Darmstadt with a master's degree. And for more than 3 decades, he's held international leadership positions, including places in Hong Kong, where he worked as a general manager. He was a vice president and group CFO of a globally operating corporation for many, many years. And business intersects with things like responsibility, cultural diversity, and those have profoundly shaped his perspective on leadership and change. His time in Hong Kong has caused him to write the book that I think was fantastic, Lifting the Curtain, Memoirs of a CFO and his views on global connections and the courage to decide an intercultural leadership style. So he brings a lot of interesting insights in that book, and he's here to discuss them with us. Jorg, welcome.
Thank you very much.
There's a lot to digest in that bio, but I've already in this circumstance I've already read your book probably about 20 times. I'm pretty well prepared for questions, but yeah, I mean, maybe fill in our audience a little bit about you and what brought you to have these kind of interesting and eclectic experiences.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andy, first of all, for that introduction and very lively start to our discussion. I love it. And yeah, what can I say? Very, very shortly, maybe. Lifting the Curtain is a book I wrote actually because you approached me a little bit more than a year ago and said, "Hey, I saw your profile. It looks quite interesting. Have you ever thought about writing a book?" And at that point in time, I never thought about writing a book, I have to admit. But yeah, it was interesting. I had then a discussion also with my family, my wife, and talking about this and if that is maybe an interesting project. And I realized then, in a way that life I and my family had, for almost 30 years living quite far away from this little hometown here in Germany, in Hong Kong, and traveling throughout Asia, something that became normality to us and to me. It was our daily life. But then for probably a lot of people, that is still quite interesting because they don't have such experience. And so, yeah, ultimately, I think there were 2 reasons that brought me then to really sit down and writing a book. Number one was I always enjoyed working with young people, and I thought this book might be a tool where I can share my experiences. I moved out of Germany towards Hong Kong when I was in my early 30s, so still a young guy, probably interested in many things and curious, but at that time never expecting what really waits for me when you do that step. So I thought a lot of my experience could be useful to people who might be at a similar stage in life and think about, maybe going overseas, doing a couple of years or even longer time somewhere abroad. That was one thing, and the other was then really also to say, wow, it's kind of a nice project. It's a nice way to kind of go through my private experiences, see what brought me to that point and what brought me to where I am today. So also a very personal project, and it was quite a personal journey as well, writing the book and going back, looking at some old photo album and other things, to get the memory right and thinking about what happened throughout these years. So yeah, I think that's pretty much how I got to writing the book, and then I started, I think, with a very early on experience I made when I was a teenager, a little older then, and I became a skiing instructor for youth camps at that time. So I was lucky to get this kind of side job, earning a bit of money and having two skiing holidays each year. Sounds fantastic. But then at the same time, I realized at 16, 17 years of age, suddenly I was responsible for a group of 12 to 14 teenagers. I should train them, I should teach them, right? And give them some progress in their own skiing capabilities. At the same time, I should, of course, make sure that they all get down the hill safe and sound, and,
Yeah.
uh, hopefully without any broken bones and things like that. So quite a responsibility. And I realized that was such a mixture of people in every group I instructed then over the years. And when I 10 years later also got the first time a chance for a promotion and to become a department head after 2, 3 years in the job or on the job. Um, I obviously at that time just said, yes, of course, I can do that. And on my way home in the car, I thought, oh God, what did you do? I just signed up for a leadership role. End of my 20s, and I had 16 adults,
Mhm.
to kind of manage. And at that moment, I thought back about this early experience. And then suddenly I thought, 12 to 14 or 16 adults are not so different from 12 to 14 teenagers. There are
Mhm.
very secure, very insecure people. There are people who overestimate themselves and their capabilities at all times. There are others who are very defensive. So you have that mix of people, and you need to find a way to manage people and to lead them as a team leader, right? And
Right.
to motivate them. Yeah, and that was one big kind of point in my managing career as well, that I realized, yeah, you already got quite some lessons on that before. Um, let's see how you can use that later on.
Oh yeah. And see, what I really enjoy about your book is, the not just it's got a great tone, and it's a good read, but it's also is showing how different cultures have different styles, and what you have been able to do is I mean, you're lifting the curtain is literally what you're doing. You're showing how, maybe a managerial style that might work in Europe doesn't necessarily apply to places in like Southeast Asia, and you're bringing a lot of your personal uh, your personal experiences and your personal insights into how you can mix, you can match, you can learn about people, and you can apply that to become a better leader.
Yeah, I think that's really one point I try to really give to my hopefully readers, potential readers,
Yeah.
about that experience. And you're absolutely right. I mean, things that work, like for example, certain teamwork and workshops, and the way you perform a workshop or you organize a workshop might be pretty easy in the West, in Europe, or maybe also in the US. But then go over to Asia, where people have, I think still a bit more of a traditional way of
Mhm.
looking at hierarchies and stuff like that. So while I think nowadays in Germany, for example, you would be, very straightforward and open in your discussions, no matter if there is a CEO in the room or not. There could be a CEO, a department head, there could be, a trainee who just started, and they all could have a very open discussion. In an environment like in China, for example, if the big boss would be sitting on that table, probably everybody else would be first very quiet.
Hmm.
And when they were asked the question, yes, they would obviously answer, but mostly in a way not to obstruct anything, their big boss said before or they believe he would be thinking of. So you have to realize that, because then when you bring a team together and you are there and you are maybe higher up in the hierarchy, so still, you need to find a way how to interact with them. And
Yeah.
a lot of times I found it's very important to get to know people also a bit outside the office and the meeting room.
Mm.
So what I was able to use quite a bit was when we had meetings, when we had workshops, we also always try to add on a little bit time outside the office. If it was a tiny little adventure, if it was conquering the Great Wall when we had a meeting in Beijing, or if it was, a visit to some nature reservoir somewhere in India after another meeting there. These things gave you a chance to interact on a more private level with those team members and colleagues. And every time the next workshop came, it was easier, to have a
Yeah.
very constructive discussion. And then, of course, people here from the West, I guess a lot of times you look at Asia and you think it's all one, but of course it's so different.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah, you talk with Japanese, Koreans, or Chinese is already very different the way they act. But then go further, and talk to Indonesians, talk to Filipinos or Filipinas, and talk to Indian people, talk to Bangladeshis. So every country has kind of their own culture and also their specialities a little bit. And I think I mentioned that in my book also when I talked about how to negotiate with people from different countries or cultural backgrounds. And I still think that's a very nice way to describe, if you
Hmm.
negotiate in China, usually it is a very quiet negotiation, both sides will offer a little bit their introduction and also their offer to a certain topic or a price or whatever, right? But then you won't see a lot of mimics in, the expression, facial expression is very reduced compared to what we are used to do in the West. There is no smile, no angry, view or anything. So you have to have a lot of patience in these discussions and negotiations. While, in Germany, it would be very straightforward. You tell me what you want from me. I tell you if I can give you that or not. And, after half an hour, we know if we come together, compromise, or if we go apart. Um, in America, excuse me to say that, forgive me, it's a bit that
Oh.
often negotiations are very, in the beginning, super friendly, but
Hmm.
my experience was sometimes a bit on the surface and a bit artificial. So, things are very quickly awesome, and you're the greatest guy, who ever showed up with such a business idea. But when it comes to the point to make it real, then it still takes time. So you need to understand those different ways, different people from different background and cultural background act and negotiate. And if you know that, then you can have very meaningful negotiations. If you just think this is the way I negotiate, you will probably run against the wall many, many times. So,
Yeah. And I like it because this has broader implications beyond even just business. Because you're talking about statecraft, you're talking about just living a life and being and being able to understand different cultures that maybe you have stereotypes about, and to kind of just peel those away. And I really like that you're bringing in that not every Asian country is the same. Not every European country is the same. I mean,
Absolutely.
the United States, you have cultural differences between whether you're negotiating in New York or Atlanta. The
Mhm.
Southerners and Northerners are very different in the United States, depending on where you are. Um, so when you kind of start to realize that, you can begin to be more insightful about how you act and how you can connect with other people. And that kind of enriches both of you, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I think that insightfulness, as you said, creates efficiency. You know,
Mm,
I can be a lot more efficient if I understand how my counterpart or, my negotiation partner is acting, and if I understand why they do what they do and why they behave the way they behave. So I can save a lot of time by having this understanding, and then make use of it when I go into discussions and
mm.
meetings with them. And I always felt this was a huge privilege, to be able to
Yeah.
get to know so many different people, and it's just amazing even today to have those friends. Sometimes employees, sometimes business partners turn into friends over years, and it's nice today that I'm still in touch with my Bangladeshi shipping officer, with my assistant in Hong Kong, with people all over the place, and I try to also respect their culture. Living in Hong Kong and China um, obviously meant we had to also, as a family, to deal with different festivities, different cultural behavior, and while we would not adapt and kind of completely just live such a life that would be a fake anyhow. We still felt we have to respect, if that is a very important Chinese holiday for our neighbors and the people that allow us to live there, right? Then we should respect it, and vice versa. And maybe also what's interesting is, I never thought I would be very much, a person looking after the German culture,
Mm.
whatever you define as German culture. But the
I'm
moment
about to say there's even multiple cultures in Germany, whether
I'm,
you're Bavarian or Saxon
I'm not
or
just
Prussian,
talking
they're all
about the
very different. Yeah.
Oktoberfest, but the Oktoberfest is a good point.
Yeah.
Our famous beer festival, right? Um, I have been there once in my life in Germany as a student, because some of my mates at the time were from Munich area, and so we had to go there and drink some beer and have some fun. But then never ever I thought I would go there again. Why should I go there? I'm not from Bavaria,
Yeah.
that whole thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
But then you live in Hong Kong, and suddenly, end of September, early October, there's Oktoberfest in one of the hotels. And suddenly the German community awakes to that. And suddenly, no matter if you are from Hamburg, Darmstadt like me, or really from Bavaria, people would go and celebrate the Oktoberfest in Hong Kong, right? So
Hmm.
suddenly you feel a bit of German culture that you are then missing because you live so far away, um, becomes more important to you. So yeah, it was quite interesting to also see that, and I surprised then my team in Hong Kong, always on the 6th of December every year, because in Germany there is a Santa Claus who arrives on the 6th and gives all the children sweets overnight when they put their socks or shoes outside the door. So what I did for many years was then always on the 5th December in the evening, I stayed until everybody was gone. And then I distributed little chocolate Santa Clauses to each desk. And next morning when they came, I pretend there was a German Santa Claus, you know.
Mhm.
And and I found it interesting that people then really asked me and said, "So is this really a cultural thing in Germany?" And so we came into a discussion again, you know. And I think that is very important too. You have to listen to people from other places and other cultural backgrounds, and you then also should try to share, right? And also give
Yeah.
them some interest in it.
Yeah, and that's what I find is kind of beautiful about it because again, you are lifting the curtain on how much even if someone says I live in the United States, I work in the United States, I never leave the United States, but when they read your book and they see this, they can start to realize, well, but maybe I should think about this because maybe people in California are different than people in Texas. I mean, I'm from Texas. I
Mhm.
guarantee you, we're very unique, and I've lived in Alabama for more than 20 years. We're very different than Texas, so
Yeah,
it really opens your eyes to how much difference you have, but then how much you have in common as well. And that's what I think is great about it is finding the things that you have in common, finding the things that can unite you rather than concentrating on, oh, all these people are completely different from me. I'll never be able to connect with them.
yeah. I think, I mean, obviously, you know it from helping me to
Yeah.
get the book finally to where it is now. Lifting the curtain, the title is also kind of not by chance. It's really something that is kind of written in stone in my brain. Again, in my early years, when I was talking with my then company here in Germany about a first engagement somewhere abroad, I was offered an employment and a position in Taiwan. And I was at that time talking to a senior manager who was already living and working in Taiwan for quite a while. And he would be at that time, if I would have taken that job, he would have been my boss over there. So I had a discussion with him, and we we were discussing, where did I come from? What is my view? What do I want to do? What do I want to reach in a couple of years? The typical questions. But there was one point in our discussion when he talked to me and said, "Listen, Mr. Kornblum, you are a young, dynamic manager. Yeah, it seems you have a good progress so far, and now you have a chance to take such a position. You certainly also think that you are an open-minded person, that you are internationally open and interested, and but you will find, the moment you really work and live abroad, a curtain will lift of which you
Mhm.
never thought or never knew that this curtain even exists." And that was a sentence, and that was a comment that I thought about many, many times in the following years. I didn't take that position in Taiwan for other reasons at that time, but it is really true. You cannot even imagine, what impressions you will get when you see the world from the other side, when look from your neighbor's garden into yours, and
Yeah.
and not just from your own outside. So it's really widening your view, and yeah, it's lifting a curtain, which you never knew exists. So this
Yeah.
is a bit the background also to that title, where it came from.
Well, I think Jorg, that is a fantastic thought to leave us on. At this stage, I mean, how can our audience find out a little bit more about you?
Obviously, reading the book.
Obviously, but beyond the book, ladies and gentlemen, that link to that book is going to be right there down below on Amazon.
Yeah,
But yeah,
no, I'm
other than
I'm I'm very happy to share, a bit more of that also in person. I'm actually quite happy. I was approached by the Amsterdam Book Club, and in 2, 3 weeks' time, there will be a spotlight event where the members of that book club come together to discuss my book, and I will join them probably also via video call, maybe even in person. I'm talking here a bit locally, to our city library, maybe to do a reading as well, and see how can I, reach a few more people. And then, of course, whoever is interested, check me out on LinkedIn. I am reachable there and would be very happy to answer any more questions, people have, because I could imagine, yeah, there's a lot more they want to know, or maybe they have more specific questions. We are now talking a bit more in general, of course. And yeah, so I'm still doing a bit of consulting at the side whenever a project appears, but I'm not on a day-to-day job anymore. I'm also not a professional book author now, but I couldn't even say if I wouldn't, dare to take on another one. The whole experience, maybe let me also say that was really great. I had a great book coach. Thanks, Andy. To
Thank you.
Yeah, even I think you didn't really made a lot of changes or gave me a lot of changes to what I was writing. But you gave me a lot of very helpful advice, how to approach the writing, how to, structure the book. And it's not that easy in the beginning. I didn't have a problem to sit down and write. That came pretty easy to me. But then, yeah, after a while, I realized you guys always talked about such a book needs to have round about 40 to 50,000 words. And then I thought, this is a lot, How do I ever get 50,000 words together? But yeah, then it happened, and so yeah, it was a good experience, and yeah, it was just also a great journey for myself, and so I'm very happy and proud. My daughters, my wife, supported me a lot and are super happy that I've done that. So yeah, good thing. I can only, recommend that to others. But yeah, if you want to know more, find me on LinkedIn. I think that's the easiest. I think I also have a link in the book at the end so that people can
Perfect. Yeah.
approach
Yeah.
me with any questions they have.
Yeah, and as I say, those links will be down below. I'll have to fit my head through the door now. You've inflated my ego for the rest of the day. I thank you so much for those kind words, Jorg, and really, it was a fantastic experience working with you as well.
Okay,
So,
great.
ladies and gentlemen, this is Jorg. Jorg, I wish you the best. We'll talk again. We'll see how the book does, and maybe we'll circle back. And if you do that other book, I'm still here.
All right.